everyone. This video is just going to go over the week 6 process book instructions. And this week gets a little bit technical, so I recommend watching this video before trying to figure out all the stuff that they talk about with colors and process colors and spot colors, and this will go over all of that. So let's just dive right in. Okay, so by this week, you should have your design pretty dialed in. You should have it chosen, and you're going to do 2 color variations. So this design A, front and back, and design B, front and back, will look the exact same, except the color scheme will be a little bit different. And then over here, these little boxes are where you're going to put the 3 colors that you're using on the card, their color formulas, and I will show you how to do that. Let's jump back over to this process book. I've already started. So here's just an example. I know mine doesn't have all the information, so make sure that yours has all the necessary contact info. All right, so as you can see that they are the same card, just with a color variation. And then over here, I put 3 colors I'm using, and black is counted as a color. The white of the card is not a color because that would be the paper. So even if your background is a different color, we're just going to assume for this exercise that that's the paper color and not an ink color. So once you have made these 3 boxes, your colors, and I'll show you on this one. So just use the eyedropper to select them. My computer might be lagging a little bit since I'm recording this as I'm working. Make that black. Okay, so now once I have these in place, if I go over here and double click on the palette, you'll see that this color picker pops up, and this tells me right here all of the formulas. So it tells me the RGB formula, which is red, green, blue. That's the colors you see on the screen. So if you're ever doing anything digital that will never be printed, you always want it to be in RGB, so websites and things like that. CMYK is if you're printing the materials, so business cards, letterheads, advertisements, and these stand for cyan, magenta, yellow, and K is black. So if you're ever going to print something, make sure you've converted it into CMYK. And if you've ever seen what these are exactly, is they layer these 4 colors to make all the other colors of the rainbow. So like if you have an inkjet printer, you have a cyan cartridge, magenta cartridge, yellow cartridge, black cartridge, and those layer to make up any other color. So this is what the information you're going to need for this step of the process book. So the formula here is 385600. So I'm just going to note that and then come over here. Let's see if I can remember what I just said. You might want to write it down. 385600. So then you're going to just do that for all these other ones. 94030. So I'm going to go 94030. And then black is just zeros all the way, except for black is 100%. So swap these and add 100. So you're going to do that for both of these on this page. Your process book has 2 of these step 10 pages. One is a horizontal layout and the other is a vertical. So if you're not doing the vertical one, just delete this extra page and vice versa. Okay, so we've done that step. Jump back over here. All right, and now we're going to make what they refer to as a style guide. So basically, this is what you would provide the printer so that they know exactly what the finished product should look like, what the colors are. Over here, you're going to list out the fonts, how big they are, so that for kind of 2 reasons. Potentially someone could recreate it, another designer, but also so that the printer knows exactly what it should look like. So if they're doing test runs and something doesn't look right, they can compare it back to this and make sure that the fonts didn't get changed or the colors aren't off or something like that. So for this page, you're going to change your process colors to spot colors and then document these different specifications of the type. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So we will come down here. So I've chosen my final design, my final color scheme, plopped it in here. I've also duplicated these colors over here. And in the process book, it has CMYK, but the instructions say they want you to make it spot colors, so we're just going to delete these and we'll just put in the name of the spot color. That looks like a little typo that they left those there. All right, so how we find a spot color. So let's first talk about what a spot color is. So the best way to think of it and the easiest way for me to understand it is the CMYK is the cyan, yellow, magenta, black, and those colors are layered to produce other colors. So you put down the layer of cyan, the layer of magenta, and they stack on top of each other. A process color, you can think of it as just the single color of ink. It's like buying a bucket of paint and it is already that color. You're not mixing anything to get this orange. It is just orange paint from the beginning, or orange ink in this case. So there's a company called Pantone that you might have heard of, and they make process colors. So Pantone will give you a book of thousands of swatches of colors that are all individually mixed already to that color, and you can choose your Pantone colors. So the reasons you might do this is if you have a very specific color associated with your brand, like if you're Coca-Cola, you have trademarked your color red, and you have, I'm sure, thousands of gallons of ink in that specific red color, and it's always the same, and it's always that red. They probably use a spot color. Sometimes if you're only doing one color on a business card, it might be cheaper to use a spot color rather than process color or CMYK. So those are some reasons. So we're just going to practice in this assignment how you convert them. So you remember over here, this shows you the RGB, the CMYK. So we already know what that is. But to find the process color, you will come over here to these swatches. And if yours isn't already open, it's under Window, Color, Swatches. Now you will click on this little menu and say New Color Swatch. It'll bring up this window. So as you can see right now, we're working in process colors, but we want to work in spot colors. So we'll switch that. And now here in color mode, we're going to go down, and then you see these Pantones. Remember, we talked about Pantones as the brand that makes these spot colors. So there's lots of different options. There's metallics, pastels, but we're just going to work with the solid coated option here. All right, so now it brings up this library. So like I said, there are thousands and thousands of Pantone colors. So right here, it kind of brings up suggestions of what it thinks might be in the range of the colors you're working with. So you could scroll through these all day. They're kind of in order of the color and their tones. So just kind of scroll through till you find the oranges. Oh, here's some oranges. And now you're going to basically look for the closest thing. So you're never going to be able to find a perfect match, but it's kind of like looking for paint swatches. So you're just kind of scrolling through and looking for one that seems to be close to the one that you've used to design. So you can spend as long as you want searching through all these colors. It might take a while. So for the sake of this assignment, we're just going to say this one is close enough. So the color name here is Pantone 715C. So hit OK, and close this. Now over here I said it was Pantone 715C. All right, so we've got that in there. That's the spot color. And it might have changed it slightly since it's not a perfect match, so that's all right. You can change it in your design just using the eyedropper if you want it to be exact. All right, so let's do that for the yellow. New color swatch. Go spot, solid coated, and then scroll through till we find a match. Where are the yellows? There's some. Well, I don't want to keep you here forever, so we'll just say that that one is close enough. So Pantone 102C. All right, Pantone 102C. So you'll do that for all of them. Then when you have your spot colors in, you'll come down here and fill out this section. So looks like my font's a little off here. Hopefully yours looks a little nicer. So you're just going to put the corresponding information. So your name, what font did you use, what style was it, and what size. So the font over here is Neuhaus Grotesque, so I would just fill that in. And the style is bold, and the size looks like 20. So I think the range here is like a range of sizes, but you can just put one size, that's fine. Okay, so that this page is all ready, and let's go back over here. So we talked about spot colors and process colors, and now for page 12, you're going to put in your digital mockups. This should be your PSD mockup. This will be the image that you submit to me to be graded, the image you'll use on your Behance page. I've provided a link in the announcements, a download link for this file, and feel free to use it. You're welcome to find your own Photoshop mockup on the internet. My one qualification is that it has to be simple like this. It can have a colored background, you can have them at an angle, but I need to be able to see the front and the back, and preferably, it's my preference that there's not any extra things. So often Photoshop mockups will put in props, they'll show these in perspective, there'll be people holding them, and those can be useful in certain applications to showcase your work, but for this class, I think it's best that they're just simple, clean, so that your work is what stands out and you're not distracted by all the other things in the image. So something along these lines. All right, now we're going to talk about being press ready. So the term press ready means that now you've designed your file and you need to create a file that's ready to send off to the printers. So this has to be clean and thought out and just ready for the printers to hit go, because the printers won't take the time to set up your file, see how many cards fit on a page and how many pages you'll need to print. You need to do all that, those calculations before you give it to the printers. So the printers aren't working with little business size pieces of paper. They're working with large paper that they'll then cut down into the correct sizes. So you'll download this template that's been created for you, and you're going to drop in your work here. So let's look at the one I've opened. So I will drop in my business card. Just thinking for a second. Well, while it's thinking, we can talk about the different elements here. So you see that they point out the bleed and the trim marks. So the bleed is where is beyond where they're going to cut the card, but you need to have some extra space so that when they trim it, nothing gets cut off. So you can see I just dropped it in here. So my design doesn't go to the bleed mark, but I'm going to need to extend it to the bleed mark so that when they trim on the trim mark, nothing gets lost. So right now, if they trim, I'm potentially going to have a little white shape under this triangle, and I don't want that. So I'm going to make sure that it becomes bigger like that so that when they cut, there's no chance of any white showing. So anything basically that hits the edge of this trim mark needs to be extended a little bit to the edge here of the bleed. These other marks are called crop marks. They just help the printer's registration so it knows where to cut it on the page. They have little cameras essentially that are looking for these crop marks to know where to cut. So once you have these in place, oh, looks like I did this wrong. These should both be fronts, these should both be backs. You're just going to save this and then drop it into the process book. Now, in these instructions, it talks about this printing color separations. Obviously, this is an online class. We're not going to be printing anything, so this is just more knowledge for you. So if you're curious how you would go about printing these in a CMYK format, this is what you would do. And if you have a printer at home, you're welcome to just try this out and see how it works. So back here, let's see, print, out to print. We'll go back. You, let's go think. Do file, print, and this will bring up the print dialog box. So there's lots of options here. The main ones you'd be concerned with are these marks. So if you want to have all the different trim, registration colors, these are all the things that will help you, that a printer would use. We talked about what trim marks and bleed marks and things are. Down here you can control the bleed. Over here is where, oops, let's see. I don't know if my printer is capable of doing this, but theoretically, if you had a printer that could print the 4-color processes separately, you would change it in the mode. Instead of composite, you would do individual color processes. And then down here, see how it says process cyan, magenta, yellow, black. These would all show up and print a different page. So one page would just print the cyan, just the magenta, just the yellow, just the black. So if you were a printer, you would do a test print this way to make sure everything's lining up. So that's where it's located in Illustrator in case you ever need to use that. All right, so I think we covered all the information then. Let's make sure in the process book you know what to do with these last pages. Jump back over here. Yeah, and the last step will be creating a Behance post. So what you'll be submitting to me this week that I will be grading for this project will be a final JPEG of the Photoshop mockup and the link to your Behance page. Now when I grade these projects, I usually just pull up the Behance page and grade straight from there. So make sure that everything is really dialed in and looks nice there. You should have a paragraph explaining your work. The photo should be at the top, your mockup. Students in the past have sometimes put their actual process book pages up there. I don't think that's necessary. Think of Behance as a very professional outward-facing platform. You're just wanting to show your polished, finished work. We don't need to see all of the process pages and the student kind of background information. So as long as you have a clear paragraph stating what this assignment was and your finished work, you'll be good. And I believe that's all for this week. If you have any comments, just leave them in the comment section on this announcement and I will get to them. Thanks.